The story begins after Kunal's parents die in an accident in the mountains. After the tragedy, the boy is sent to live in a monastery where he grows up reading superhero stories and playing basketball with other children, trying to live a normal life despite his loss. One day, a monk calls him to give him some unexpected news. A letter has arrived from his uncle Deshrai, who owns a school and wants Kunal to come live with him and study there. The boy begs to be allowed to stay at the monastery, but the monk explains that Deshrai is his legal guardian and that there is nothing he can do. Sad and with no other choice, Kunal says goodbye and begins a long journey to the home of his uncle and aunt. From the moment he arrives, it is clear that he is not welcome. They treat him coldly, consider him a curse, and do not allow their own son to get close to him. The next day, Kunal attends his first day of classes at his uncle's school. During English class, the teacher starts writing several words incorrectly on the blackboard. Noticing this, Kunal laughs and tries to correct him. The teacher, annoyed, refuses to admit his mistake and punishes the boy in front of the whole class, warning him not to act like a know-it-all again. After school, Kunal leaves upset. On the way, the siblings Aryu and Ronnie approach him to comfort him and explain that at that school it is normal for teachers to punish students and that the best thing to do is not draw attention. Kunal replies that this is not fair and that adults should not abuse their power just because they are older, promising that one day he will be strong enough to put an end to that injustice. At his uncle's house, Kunal realizes how lonely he is. No one seems to care about him, and he spends most of his time isolated, with only Aryu and Ronnie for company. On his birthday, his friends come to visit him, bring him gifts, and invite him to go play in the forest. As they walk, they approach an abandoned house that, according to them, is haunted. Seeing that Kunal does not believe in ghosts, Aryu dares him to go inside. Although they are nervous, the boy accepts and enters alone. Minutes later, he comes out completely unharmed. However, just when they think everything is over, a swarm of bats suddenly flies out and scares them. The three of them run in terror through the forest, and during their escape they come across a man carrying a pickaxe, whom they mistake for a practitioner of black magic. The next morning, Deshrai meets with the school inspector. To deceive him, he has one of his employees pretend to be an important person, and in this way he manages to get the man to donate more money to the school. But a government worker is not fooled. She reveals that 6 million rupees are missing from the donated funds and accuses Deshrai of transferring them to his personal account. She then demands an explanation and threatens to report him if the money does not appear. Frightened, Deshrai returns home and talks with his wife about the 7 million rupees that his brother left for Kunal, money that can only be claimed when the boy turns 21. Desperate, they both reach an extreme decision to fake Kunal's death in order to keep that money. With this plan in motion, Deshrai takes the boy to the largest theme park in India. There, he insists that Kunal get on one of the rides. Kunal agrees only if his uncle rides with him. Deshrai accepts, but before the car starts moving, he fastens the boy's seat, quickly gets off, and escapes on a ferry. When the ride ends, Kunal runs to the pier looking for his uncle, but only manages to see the ferry sailing away, leaving him completely alone. After abandoning Kunal, Deshrai calls his wife and orders her to tell the entire town that the boy died in a train accident. They immediately begin preparing a fake funeral ceremony to make everyone believe he is dead. Meanwhile, Kunal wanders alone through the streets, tired, hungry, and completely lost. At one point, he stops to eat, but several homeless people try to take his food. Kunal struggles to protect his belongings until a woman named Kiddu appears and helps chase them away. Kiddu takes the boy to the storage room of a theater, the place where she lives. There, Kunal tells her everything that has happened to him, and the woman decides to help, thinking about taking him back to his uncle's house, unaware that he abandoned him on purpose. In the village, the supposed healer Baba talks with Aryu, who mentions that Kunal entered the haunted house. Taking advantage of the story, Baba convinces the people that the boy disappeared because of a curse, while the strange man who lives near the abandoned house watches everything from a distance. The next morning, Deshrai arrives in an ambulance and the whole town gathers for Kunal's funeral. During the ceremony, Deshrai asks to be left alone with the body and reveals to his wife that inside the coffin, there is only a doll. After the funeral, Deshrai cremates the doll in front of everyone and shortly afterward receives the check for 7 million rupees. Convinced that the plan has worked, he celebrates with his wife for having paid off all their debts. Meanwhile, Kunal and Kiddu decide to leave the storage room. They are seen by the guard, but they manage to escape, get into a taxi, and head to the train station. When they arrive, Kiddu helps Kunal get on the train and gets off for a moment to buy food. However, a station employee stops her. At that instant, the train begins to move. Kunal runs desperately toward the door, trying to get off. Seeing him, Kiddu manages to convince him not to jump and asks him to continue alone, promising that they will see each other again soon. With no other choice, the boy stays on the train while Kiddu is left behind. Later, Kunal gets off the train and manages to reach the entrance of his old town. A shopkeeper is frightened when he sees him, although the boy does not understand why and continues walking toward the city. Suddenly, it begins to rain. Kunal puts on a soaked white jacket and, dressed completely in white, walks through the streets. In the darkness and the rain, the villagers believe it is Kunal's ghost who has returned. Terrified, they run to hide in their houses, leaving the boy confused and not understanding what is happening. Deshraj's son runs to tell his father what he has seen. Fearing that he will be exposed, Deshraj grabs a knife and promises his wife that this time he will finish the job. Unknowingly, Kunal hears the conversation from the window and immediately runs away. Deshraj goes out to look for him, but is interrupted by the villagers who come to his house to talk about the supposed ghost. Terrified, Kunal runs into the forest and takes refuge in the abandoned house. There he discovers that the man with the pickaxe lives there. The man tries to chase him away, and Kunal tries to scare him by pretending to be a ghost, but the man is not fooled. With nowhere else to go, Kunal confesses that his uncle wants to eliminate him and asks to stay there for the night. In the end, the man agrees. The next morning, Kunal wakes up early and explores the house. During his search, he finds a secret door that leads to the basement. When he goes down and turns on the lights, he discovers that the place is actually a laboratory, something completely unexpected, which makes Kunal begin to suspect that the man with the pickaxe is very different from what he seems. Noticing how amazed Kunal is by the laboratory, the man returns and explains that it is not magic, but pure science. He reveals that he's actually a scientist and that everything Kunal has seen has a logical explanation. While they talk, the people of the village gather outside the abandoned house and begin to pray to drive out Kunal's supposed spirit. Curious, the scientist goes out to listen to what they are saying and takes the opportunity to explain to the boy that the town has lived for too long under the control of superstitions, and that now they have a chance to change things. The scientist then proposes that he and Kunal work together to put an end to those beliefs and take revenge on Deshraj. However, the boy does not want revenge and says he has no reason to stay there, so he decides to go back to Kiddu. But as he approaches the window, Kunal realizes that even his own friends are being deceived. Remembering all the suffering the children of the village go through, he changes his mind and returns to the laboratory, determined to help. Thus begins a hard training, while the scientist prepares a special suit to free the people from fear and superstition. With everything ready, Kunal decides to become a superhero and takes the name Zakomon. As his first action, Zakomon goes to his uncle's school to punish the adults who forced the children to do their work. Hidden among the trees, he destroys parts of Deshraj's statue, which makes the employees rush angrily into the forest to catch him. Using the suit's technology, Zakomon makes it seem if he is flying through the mist, terrifying the adults, who run away in panic. Then he chases them with his jet-powered backpack to scare them even more. Back at the school, the staff claim they have been attacked by a ghost and everyone runs to hide. At that moment, Zakomon appears on the roof of the building, introduces himself to everyone, and warns them that they will meet again soon, before disappearing into the fog. At home, Deshraj learns what has happened and immediately realizes that Zakomon is Kunal, unlike his wife, who fears the truth coming out. Deshraj seems to be planning something to get rid of the boy. Meanwhile, in the abandoned house, Kunal and the scientist continue improving the suit. At the same time, Kiddu, held in a reform school, tries to convince the staff that she is innocent. While exploring the house, Kunal finds a chest with old documents and discovers that the man with the pickaxe is actually Dr. Raleigh, a well-known scientist who mysteriously disappeared years ago. Confused, Kunal demands an explanation and asks why he never tried to educate the village. Rai refuses to answer, which makes Kunal leave, saying that he no longer wants to help him. With no other choice, Rai decides to tell him the truth. He explains that he returned to his hometown to improve people's lives using science. However, when he arrived, he discovered that Deshraj and Baba were manipulating the villagers' faith to steal money. When Rai became a threat to them, they set his house on fire and convince the people that it was a divine punishment. Rejected and left with nothing, Roy took refuge in the abandoned house that everyone believed was haunted, which allowed him to continue his experiments in secret. After hearing the story, Kunal decides to keep helping him. Soon after, he makes another appearance at the school and writes on the blackboard that Desrai is a thief. He also makes desks and tables fly in front of everyone, frightening them even more. When he finally gets his uncle's attention, Kunal uses a loudspeaker to publicly accuse him of stealing millions of rupees from the school. Then, using a focusing system, he directs sunlight and sets Deshraj's clothes on fire. The man is struck by his own employees as they try to put out the flame, and the statue of Deshraj in the courtyard is destroyed. In the end, Zagoman is applauded by the children, becoming a true hero to all of them. Although Zagoman has appeared several times, the fight is far from over. Inspired by him, the students begin training to become Zakomans themselves, learning to stand up to the abuse of adults. Even without new appearances by the hero, Kunal manages to change things at the school, encouraging the children to unite and not accept unfair punishment. Surprised by this rebellion, the adults go to the church, where they meet Desrai and Baba, who tried to regain control. Both claim that Zakoman is a different kind of ghost, and that only through faith will they be able to face him. At that moment, the microphone begins to move on its own and almost slips from Baba's hands. Although he manages to hold it, he accuses someone of trying to tarnish Deshraj's image and points to Zakoman as a practitioner of black magic. Suddenly, the town clock starts spinning out of control. Baba claims he has the solution and announces a ritual to destroy the dark souls, earning the admiration of the villagers, who now see him as a savior. When the frauds think they have fooled everyone, the lights go out and Zakoman appears flying in front of the crowd. Terrified, the people run toward the exit, but discover that the door has been locked by Roy. Then Zakoman throws 3 paintballs and his boomerang, marking Desrai and his group. The crowd manages to open the door and begins to flee, but Zakoman reappears on top of the church and stops them. He tells them that the only way to get rid of him is to abandon fear and superstition. Desperate, Desrai and Baba run away while Zakoman finishes his message and disappears once again. After this, the town begins to awaken. Little by little, the people realize they have been deceived for years. In the following days, they celebrate a festival, although Ronnie is sad because Kunal is no longer with them. From the bushes, Kunal watches everything. He tries to approach his friend, but Roy stops him, warning that if he reveals himself now, the whole plan will be ruined. Kunal does not understand and says that he only wants to live a normal life with Kitu, but Roy replies that she will not return. This deeply affects the boy. That night, Kunal remembers the moments he spent with Kitu and falls asleep, unaware that she has already left the reform school and is looking for him. At the entrance of the town, Kitu shows a photo of the boy to a shopkeeper, who tells her that Kunal died weeks ago. Even so, she does not give up and asks more people, but they all say the same thing, leaving her without hope. While walking through the forest, Kitu runs into Rai, who recognizes her immediately. Instead of taking her to Kunal, he decides to call the boy for a training session nearby. Rai sets up a trampoline and asks Kunal to jump as high as he can. From the air, the boy manages to see Kitu and, excited, shouts her name and runs toward her. Relieved, Kitu confirms that Kunal is still alive. Back at the abandoned house, Kunal tells her everything he has been through since they were separated. However, instead of thanking Roy, Kitu accuses him of using the boy for personal revenge and announces that the next day she will take Kunal away with her. Then she sends Kunal to his room. Kunal tries to explain that Roy never forced him and that he chose to become Zakoman to change the reality of the children who suffer abuse. Kitu does not understand and says that he is becoming crazy as well. Saddened, Kunal goes to bed. Later, when everyone is asleep, Kunal leaves the house for a night walk, unaware that Deshraj's men have seen him and are tracking his location. Without realizing the danger approaching, Kunal goes to Aryu and Ronnie's house and finally reveals to them that he never became a ghost. With his friends, he tells them about the argument between Kitu and Rai and explains that he plans to leave the next morning. Before saying goodbye, he asks them not to forget him and to keep fighting, becoming the new Zakoman. After spending the night talking, Kunal decides to return home. However, halfway there, he suddenly comes face to face with Desrai, who appears in a car and tries to run him over. Kunal manages to dodge him and runs into the forest. But Desrai does not give up and continues chasing him all the way to the school. When they arrive, Kunal hides inside the blackboard. Desrai enters looking for him and after a while, manages to find him. Furious, he starts to strangle him. Terrified but determined, Kuno tells him that Zakomon will never disappear and manages to kick him away. Kuno runs through the hallways and climbs onto the roof, but he slips and ends up hanging from the tiles. Desperate, he asks his uncle for help, but Desrai only watches as the boy falls down. Believing that everything is over, Desrai goes to his office to calm down. Suddenly, the spirit of Zakomon appears and begins to chase him throughout the school, showing up again and again to torment him. Surrounded by several Zakomons, Desrai falls to his knees and begs for forgiveness. At that moment, he confesses everything he did to Kunal, from abandoning him at the theme park to stealing his money and trying to get rid of him. After the confession, the Zakomons remove their masks and reveal that they are actually Kunal's friends. Just then, Rai and Kid arrive at the school and find Desrai in complete shock, along with Kunal, who managed to survive the fall but is badly injured. With the boy in danger, they immediately take him to the abandoned house. A doctor examines Kunal and explains that because of the seriousness of his injuries, it is not possible to move him to a hospital. Filled with guilt, Rai and Kidu stay by his side, waiting for him to recover. The villagers begin to gather outside the abandoned house. They all applaud and call him by his hero's name, Zakomon. Hearing the voices of his friends, Kunal starts to remember the good moments he has lived. Little by little, he gathers enough strength to wake up, filling everyone with joy. Thanks to Zakomon's courage, the town is finally freed from superstition. Kunal is recognized as a true hero and, for the first time, feels that he truly has a home. In the end, Desrai is arrested and Baba is expelled from the city. With time, the abandoned house is restored, and Rai opens a science school there, where he lives together with Kunal, Kitu, and other children, beginning a new stage full of hope. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think about this movie.